What will happen to you if you stop eating sugar? The same white sugar you use for sweetening your tea or coffee. We're also talking about the sugar in sweets and pastries. And finally, hidden sugar, that is, in products that we do not suspect contain sugar, like ketchup. So let's say you cut out all sugar for 30 days. What would happen to your body? To let YouTube know that you find our content valuable, if you like Doctor's Notes, please subscribe and give us a like. About inflammation. When you remove sugar from your diet, this is a key benefit. I mean lack of inflammation. It turns out that sugar does have an effect on the inflammatory processes that are going on in our bodies. An excess of sugar in the daily diet actually exacerbates them, to make matters even worse. This is because sugar, or more precisely glucose and fructose, sucrose or glucose-fructose syrup, belong to the same group of compounds which are collectively known as hexases. They contribute to inflammation, including aggravating the symptoms of diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, psoriasis, inflammatory bowel disease, and chronic inflammation with low-grade malignancy. By reducing white sugar, even a little, you are doing your body a favor. About diabetes. Diabetes is often associated with sugar, but not always rightly so. Sugar is not the only culprit in developing diabetes. Through complicated mechanisms of addiction and habit formation, it contributes to the development of this and other metabolic diseases. Excess calories lead to loss of control over satiety. This leads to even more sugar consumption. The result is obesity and the accumulation of fat in the pancreas, liver, and other organs. Diabetes and metabolic diseases, including high blood pressure, are caused by fat in the pancreas and liver. What happens if we stop eating sugar or products containing sugar? We will stabilize our blood sugar levels a little. Unfortunately, not enough to reverse diabetes. But what is very important is that we will improve our sensitivity to insulin. The cells in our body will have a better use of glucose and will convert it into more energy. In a study conducted on a group of obese young people, we read that participants who reduced their intake of added sugars showed significant improvements in insulin secretion and greater sensitivity to the hormone. About obesity. It's also worth taking a moment to focus on obesity. The equation is quite simple. The greater the abdominal obesity, the greater the risk of development of a number of unwanted conditions. Not just diabetes, but also high blood pressure, for example. Excessive consumption of sugar, especially in beverages, is clearly linked to rising obesity rates around the world, according to scientific reports. However, it is worth bearing in mind that manufacturers are so eager to add sugar not only to sweet snacks, but also to ready meals and to seasonings, ham and even ketchup, mustard and mayonnaise. About mouth. This dynamic place is our first step in the whole of our digestive system. It's here that the food we eat is broken down for the first time, and it becomes fuel for the bacteria that live in our oral cavity. The bacteria turn sugar into acid, which gradually destroys the enamel surface of the teeth, causing tooth decay. An additional problem is that sugar provides an excellent breeding ground for bacteria, which in excess can cause serious gum inflammation. There is a very good reason why we teach our children that they should brush their teeth after eating sweets, or quite simply that if they eat too many sweets, they will experience a painful inflammation of the gums. About digestive system, let's stay with the intestines and how they work. Inside, we should have a well-balanced array of bacteria that help digest or maintain hormonal balance. But if we decide to break all the rules of a healthy diet, this homeostasis is easily destroyed. This extremely delicate balance between good and bad bacteria is destroyed and altered by sugar. It causes an increase in the number of pathogenic bacteria, that is, species of microorganisms that naturally cause disease. This can cause a condition called dysbiosis. About dysbiosis. The result is a certain change in the structure of our digestive system. We are talking about bacteria, of course, and this can lead to leaky gut. This complicated process not only causes it to become dysfunctional, but also increases the risk that uninvited guests will invade our bodies. So, a reduction in the amount of sugar in the diet can have great benefits for the whole digestive system. About the liver. It turns out that reducing the amount of sugar, especially added sugar, is also good for our liver. Studies suggest that the consumption of a particular very popular sweetener, high fructose corn syrup, is associated with a higher risk of developing non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. How is this possible? Breaking down fructose is the job of the liver, and its excess in the form of syrup which reaches the liver very quickly, causes it to store fat. So how can we make life easier for our liver? By minimizing your intake of added sugars, as the title of our video suggests. About the gut. Are you aware of the fact that by reducing or eliminating sugar from your diet, we can have a real impact on improving the absorption of individual nutrients from food, as well as the absorption of individual nutrients from food, and thus better saturation of the body with vitamins or reduction of deficiencies? If we look at reports from the scientific world, we learn that added sugars promote nutrient deficiencies. In other words, daily consumption of sweets with added sugar hinders the body's ability to absorb valuable elements and minerals. The icing on the cake of these sugar dangers is the fact that added sugars crowd out more nutritious foods from the diet and at the same time increase the demand for nutrients. So the more added sugars in our diets, the greater the risk of nutritional deficiencies, and that's probably reason enough to limit it in your diet. About the heart. It is hard to say which organ is more important, the liver, lungs, brain, intestines, or our heart. It's the most important pump in the body. The heart is a big muscle, so a high sugar intake has been directly and indirectly linked to cardiovascular disease. You will see evidence of this in your own blood tests. If, for example, if you have high triglyceride levels, it is very likely that you are adding too much sugar to your diet. One study looked at the daily intake of added sugars and the risk of heart disease in more than 11,000 people over a period of about 15 years. Participants who consumed 25% or more of their daily calories from sugar were more than twice as likely to die from heart disease as those who consumed less than 10% of their calories from added sugar. According to a study published in JAMA, Internal Medicine, people who consumed 17-21% of their calories from added sugars had a 38% higher risk of dying from cardiovascular disease than those who consumed only 8% of their calories from added sugars. And on another point, I would like to share with you a very important discovery. It has to do with the presence of added sugars in our diets, specifically the high fructose corn syrup I mentioned earlier. About Alzheimer's disease. Are you aware of the fact that we can make a real difference to reducing the risk of Alzheimer's disease by reducing our consumption of foods containing this very syrup? Researchers suggest that high consumption of refined high fructose corn syrup suppresses metabolic processes in areas of the brain responsible for cognitive function. Interestingly, a study that lasted up to 15 years suggests that high consumption of pure, isolated fructose increases the risk of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Of course, Alzheimer's is a multifactorial disease. One of the factors may well be white sugar. Table sugar is nothing more than sucrose, and sucrose is made up of glucose and fructose, which we have just been talking about. So if you want to keep a good memory and an efficient mind for many years to come, you already know what to do. Thanks for listening. Subscribe for more. See you next time on Doctor's Notes.